Now, Martin Kingston, the Vice President of BUSA, is joining me now to speak on these calls for the reintroduction of TERS to assist businesses and employees who are affected, of course, by level 4 lockdown regulations. Martin, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us on the Midday View. I guess, it is tough times indeed, especially for the hospitality industry, and you as BUSA asking for the reintroduction of TERS. How is that message being received so far from what you are hearing?
Well, good afternoon, Dan. The message actually has been received extremely positively and sympathetically. We had at NEDLAC a very constructive engagement with government, with the UIF executive, as well as Labour and civil society. And I have no doubt that they will accommodate those who are needing relief as a consequence of the adjusted level 4 lockdown that was introduced, as you say, over the weekend, and particularly for those sectors that are going to be impacted, the leisure and hospitality industry, the events industry, the restaurant industry, the liquor industry, as you said. There are some modalities that the UIF needs to go through in terms of making sure that they've got adequate reserves to be able to provide the support. We think not just for the next 2 weeks, which is, of course, the envisaged level of lockdown to date, but I think many of us anticipate it will endure beyond then, and therefore for as long as adjusted level 4 goes on.
Yeah, I saw a report the other day saying that the government says it has already paid about 60 billion rand so far under the pandemic to more than 5 million workers. Do you think there will still be some funds left in the UIF?
Yeah, we discussed that as well yesterday, Dan. It has been a very important, critical scheme in terms of providing relief as a consequence of the contraction of the economy, the lockdowns, and the unemployment, temporary unemployment that we saw last year. I am very confident that they, as the UIF and government, will be able to satisfy themselves that there are adequate reserves still available to provide ongoing support in the context of this third wave that we're now confronted with. As I said, the issue is going to be who it applies to, not just the hospitality, leisure and associated industries, but we believe that it also needs to apply, for example, to those who are over 60 who can't go to work, those with comorbidities who can't go to work in the context of the third wave. I think it got a very sympathetic hearing. We were completely aligned with our partners, particularly our partners from Labour. The only issue is going to be that we need to get it out as quickly as possible because, as you'll appreciate, there are now people who were anticipating receiving salaries and income even this week who won't be able to withdraw those funds and therefore need to rely upon other forms of support from the government.
Yeah. So was there an understanding and appreciation in that NEDLAC discussion around this issue that we actually don't know what's going to happen after 2 weeks? We might be heading into an extended level 4 lockdown restrictions because the numbers currently in terms of daily infections are still going high, and we are hearing that KwaZulu-Natal as well, the Delta variant there is spreading. So it might be a requirement or a need for longer than 2 weeks.
Yeah, we were very aware of that, and it was absolutely discussed very explicitly. There's no doubt that although Gauteng is currently bearing the brunt, we're seeing it extending the third wave into many other provinces. We certainly haven't reached the peak yet as a country. I think we're all devastated by the number of people who are both getting infected as well as the mortality rate. And therefore, we need to anticipate the possibility that not only will it endure for longer than 2 weeks, but potentially much longer than that. So we need to have enough by way of reserves and resources, if I can put it that way, within the UIF to provide that support. And we had those conversations very openly. I think it was a constructive discussion. I would be disappointed if they weren't able to acknowledge the need to do so beyond the 2 week period, if indeed the lockdown is extended.
Okay, I mean, you mentioned NEDLAC, and when business, labour, government and the civil society comes together at NEDLAC, there's normally more than one issue at the table, on the table. I'm not aware what the agenda was. You were there. particularly this time as the country is grappling. I mean, the president a few weeks ago was talking about some green shoots in the economy. We are beginning to see some good activity, and bang, third wave hits us so hard that you're wondering what kind of priority discussions you'll be having at NEDLAC now.
Well, NEDLAC, when the pandemic first arrived, effectively established a rapid response task team. It was then a year and a bit ago meeting on a daily basis. We will reinstitute that to the extent required. In terms of the economic recovery, there's an economic recovery action plan which all 4 partners at NEDLAC have subscribed to. It's been published, and we're beginning to monitor that very aggressively. A good example of one of those green shoots was, of course, the president raising the cap in terms of embedded generation to 100 megawatts. It was an area that we'd all, again, collectively pushed for at NEDLAC. We need to implement as quickly as possible a broad range of measures that have been agreed, particularly recognizing that if the level 4 lockdown endures, it's going to have a meaningful impact upon the scope for economic recovery, although the Reserve Bank figures that came out recently were more positive than many people had anticipated in terms of a rebound from last year. But Dan, we've got a long way to go to get back to even where we were in pre-COVID times, and then we were in a recession. So we're going to have to buckle our belts and commit ourselves to a much more aggressive set of measures to implement if we're going to be able to power that economic recovery, and through that, not just recover the jobs that we've lost, but address the very fundamental issue of unemployment in the country.
Thank you very much, Martin Kingston from the Business Unit South Africa, sharing with us a little bit of what they were discussing at NEDLAC at the end, but earlier on, of course, talking about business, asking government to reinstate that temporary relief fund for employers and employees. They are hoping for a quick response from government, but so far things look positive. We'll have to wait and see what's going to happen in the next few weeks, because the current level 4 lockdown restrictions might be extended beyond 2 weeks. We're still in the middle of that third wave of the coronavirus, and the Delta variant is not making things any easier.